For most of your life, the message about cancer has been one instruction: catch it early, find the lump while it is still small, and you have won the fight that matters. I want to take that apart, because the arithmetic underneath it does not say what you were told. Here is the part that rearranges everything. By the time your fingers can find a lump, that tumor is not young. It is in its final chapter. A cancer starts as a single cell, and it has to reach about 1 billion cells before anyone can feel it, which takes roughly 30 rounds of doubling. And from that findable lump to a mass that actually threatens your life is only about 10 more. 30 doublings to become detectable, 10 to become deadly. So the lump you were trained to hunt only shows up after the tumor has already spent 3/4 of its life in silence. Which means the useful question was never how fast can you find the lump. It is what was happening across all those silent years, and whether one specific signal, one most people never look at, decides whether a hidden tumor ever wakes at all. That signal is the cell sign in the title, and naming it is where this is headed. Stay with me. One thing first, and I hold to it, because this is cancer. Everything here is educational, published research, read closely, and set out in plain words. It is not a diagnosis, it is not advice for your particular body. And I want to be loud about this one, because it is the opposite of what a title like this might make you fear. Nothing here is ever a reason to skip a screening your doctor recommends. If anything, it is the strongest argument for keeping them. Bring all of it to your own doctor, alongside their care, never in place of it. And who is telling you this? Someone who reads this literature for a living, not someone who treats patients. Hold that distinction, because it makes what follows more reassuring than alarming, not less. Start with the doubling math, because everything rests on it. Cells multiply by doubling. 1 becomes 2, 2 become 4. Climbing from a single cell up to 1 billion takes about 30 of those steps. Going from 1 billion up to the trillion or so that overwhelms a body takes only about 10 more. Honestly, the first time I laid that out on paper, I did not quite trust it, so I checked it against the measured tumor growth rates in the literature. It holds. And let me be precise about the billion, because a lazier version of this would round right past it. 1 billion is a teaching number, the tidy figure everyone quotes for a 1 centimeter tumor, and for several common cancers the real count is likely lower, nearer 100 million, but that only trims the countdown by a doubling or two. The shape does not change. Almost all of a tumor's life is spent where no hand, and for most of it no scan, can reach it. And here is the honest caveat I owe you, because I promised precision. If you took that math literally and multiplied it into a tidy number of years, you would be wrong. Cleanly, confidently wrong. Tumors do not tick along at a fixed pace. They grow fastest when they are tiny and slow as they get large, because the crowded center starves for oxygen and stalls. A researcher named Larry Norton described that breaking pattern in human tumors in the late 1980s, and it carries the name Gompertzian growth. What it means for you is simple. You cannot back-calculate the exact age of a tumor. Estimates for how long one takes just to reach a single centimeter run from a few years to a couple of decades, so I will not hand you one number and pretend it is gospel. What is not in doubt is the direction. A long, silent head start is the rule, not the exception. Why does that head start run so long? Because a cancer is not switched on in a single moment. It is assembled in stages, and two scientists worked those stages out on the skin of mice in the 1940s, Isaac Berenblum and Philippe Schubik, and the framework still stands. First comes initiation. One cell takes a permanent hit to its instructions, a mutation that does not unhappen. On its own, that cell is nothing. It can sit there quietly for a lifetime. Second comes promotion, and this is the stage that belongs to you. The changed cell slowly multiplies into a small colony over years, and this middle stretch is reversible. It runs on chronic inflammation and steady irritation, and take the fuel away and the colony can stall and even retreat. Only in the third stage, progression, does it gather the final changes that make it truly dangerous. So the reason cancer is slow, the reason that first mutation is not a verdict, is that long reversible middle. And that middle is exactly the stretch your daily life touches, not the permanent first hit. And how many key driver hits does a cell even need to turn? Not hundreds, a small handful. Most estimates land between 2 and 8, and for lung and colon, Christian Tomasetti and Bert Vogelstein put it as low as 3. 3 wrong hits, gathered slowly, usually across most of a lifetime, which raises a question that turns the fear inside out. If a cell needs only a few hits, and all of us accumulate mutations as we age, how much of your ordinary healthy-looking tissue is already carrying them right now? The answer, from some genuinely landmark work, is a lot. A team led by Inigo Martin-Corena sampled normal eyelid skin, the kind a surgeon trims away without a thought. Reading it cell by cell, they found that by middle age, somewhere between a quarter and a third of those perfectly normal skin cells already carried a cancer driver mutation. Then they did the same with the normal lining of the esophagus, and it was stranger still. One driver change showed up in 12 to 80% of the cells. And here is the twist: it was more common in the normal esophagus than in esophageal cancer itself. Let that land the right way. Your healthy tissue, as you age, is a patchwork, a quiet mosaic of little clones, each carrying a change or two that cancer would need, coexisting, harming no one. The field even has a name for it: field cancerization. Carrying driver mutations is not a diagnosis. It is a normal part of getting older. You are not defective for having them. You are typical. So how does a colony stay hidden for years? A surgeon scientist named Judah Folkman handed us the key. A clump of tumor cells cannot grow past the size of a pinhead, a millimeter or two, on its own, because food and oxygen only seep so far into a mass. So it stalls. It sits there, microscopic and dormant, sometimes for years, its births and deaths perfectly balanced, going nowhere, and it stays stuck until it manages one trick: coaxing your body into growing fresh blood vessels toward it, plumbing it in. Folkman called that moment the angiogenic switch. Angio meaning blood vessel. Before the switch, a harmless speck living hand to mouth. After it, a tumor with a supply line, free to grow. Folkman and a colleague, Raghu Kaluri, gave a paper the title that says the whole thing: Cancer Without Disease. A body can hold real cancer cells without holding cancer, the illness. The speck and the disease are not the same event. A blood supply is what separates them. And these silent specks are common, far more common than anyone expects. When pathologists examined the thyroid glands of people who died of unrelated things, accidents, heart attacks, they found tiny hidden thyroid cancers in more than a third of them. Examine the prostates of men who died of other causes, and the share climbs with age like a staircase, a few percent in young men, close to 60% by the late 70s. And in one careful autopsy series of older women, nearly 1 in 5 held a small in situ breast cancer she never knew was there. These were not sick people. Their bodies simply carried cancer cells that never became cancer, the disease. Now, the honest complication, because it is the flip side of that same coin, and I will not tuck it away. If harmless silent tumors are this common, then a very sensitive test that goes looking will sometimes find one, and once found, it is nearly impossible to be certain that speck was ever going to hurt you. The thyroid is the clearest warning. When countries began scanning necks aggressively, they turned up a flood of these tiny cancers and treated them, and an international team led by Salvatore Vaccarella estimated that across 63 countries, more than 1.7 million people were overdiagnosed, found, labeled, often treated for a cancer that, left alone, would never have harmed them. In women, depending on the country, that share ran from around 40% to over 90%, so hold both halves at once. This is the strongest proof we have that silent tumors are common and mostly harmless, and it is the honest reason screening is a genuinely double-edged tool. The answer is never scan everything as hard as possible, and it is never skip the scans that save lives. It is smarter, targeted screening matched to your real risk, decided with your own doctor. That is a conversation, not a slogan, and it is more than a 12-minute appointment was ever built to hold. So back to the reframe, the whole reason any of this matters. If the lump is the final chapter, and the real story is the decades of quiet biology before it, then the question is not, how do I find the lump sooner? It is what decides whether a dormant speck stays asleep or wakes up and flips that switch. And here is the cell sign you have been ignoring, all those years you spent watching for lumps. It is not a lump. It is not a number on a scan. It is the terrain. The low-grade inflammation quietly running through your tissues, year after year. There is a beautiful old description of this. A researcher named Harold Dvorak called tumors wounds that do not heal. Think of a splinter. Your body floods the spot, rebuilds it, then stands down once the job is done. A tumor hijacks that exact repair program to build its blood supply and cuts the brake line so the program never stands down. Chronic inflammation is the fuel that keeps it running. Remember the reversible promotion stage? Inflammation is its engine, the thing that nudges an idle colony to keep expanding when it might otherwise have quit. That is why Douglas Hanahan and Robert Weinberg, in their map of what enables cancer, list inflammation among the core conditions. Not because inflammation is a mutation, it is not, but because it is the ground in which an already changed cell gets coaxed, year after year, toward waking up. You can watch this in the clearest human cases, and I will give you the real sizes, so you know I am not waving my hands. Chronic viral inflammation of the liver is one of the starkest. In a classic study of more than 22,000 men, R. Palmer Beasley found that those chronically infected with hepatitis B, a virus that keeps the liver inflamed for decades, carried a liver cancer risk on the order of 200 times that of the uninfected. 200. A stomach bug, H. pylori, that quietly inflames the stomach lining for years, roughly triples the risk of the common form of stomach cancer. Long-standing inflammation of the colon from inflammatory bowel disease pushes colon cancer risk up steadily over the years. And carrying excess body fat, which we now read as low-grade inflammation throughout the whole body, was formally tied by the International Cancer Agency to 13 separate cancers. 13. Same lesson each time, in different clothes. A tissue kept inflamed over a long timeline is a tissue where a silent speck is that much likelier to stir. And there is a reason this tilts against us as the years pass. Worth saying plainly, because it is not a moral failing. Inflammation creeps up with age on its own. Researchers named it inflammaging, coined by Claudio Franceschi and colleagues, for the background hum of inflammation that climbs decade by decade, even in perfectly healthy people. Your ground simply runs a little warmer at 70 than it did at 40, through no fault of yours. That is not cause for alarm. It is the reason the plainest anti-inflammatory habits earn more value in the second half of life, not less. Later is exactly when the ground needs them most. And when scientists learned to read a tumor's own genetic tree rings, dating its mutations from its DNA, they found the same story from the other direction. In a project reconstructing the histories of more than 2,500 cancers, the first events often preceded diagnosis by many years, and sometimes by decades. What surfaces as a lump this year began, in silence, a very long time ago. So notice what the whole picture actually asks of you, because it is the opposite of panic. First, and I told you I would be plain about this, keep your recommended screenings. This whole story is the case for screening, not against it. A cancer spends a long, quiet, findable stretch inside the body before any symptom, and screening is how you catch it in that stretch, instead of waiting for the lump. Yes, there is the real complication we walked through, which is why the science is moving towards smarter, more targeted screening. But the answer to that lives in a conversation with your doctor, never in skipping the scans that save lives. And second, the part that is genuinely yours across the silent decades is the terrain. You cannot vacuum out a dormant speck, and I will not pretend you can. But the smoldering inflammation that decides whether specks stay asleep is shaped, over years, by the least glamorous levers there are. Not smoking, keeping alcohol low, not carrying excess body fat, staying in motion. Getting a real handle on the chronic conditions that keep tissues inflamed. Not because any of that scrubs a tumor out, but because it lowers the ground's temperature across the long window when it counts. The field even has a name for where this is heading. A Nobel-winning scientist, Elizabeth Blackburn, called it cancer interception. Catching and calming cancer during its long silent phase, in that reversible window, instead of waiting for a full-grown disease. It is early, and I will not oversell it. But that silent, reversible window is where the leverage has always been. So let me pull the thread through, cleanly. A tumor lives most of its life before it is ever a lump, and both the arithmetic and the measured growth rates prove it. So by the time you can feel it, it is old, not young. It stayed hidden because it could not grow until it recruited a blood supply, and for years it sat dormant, waiting on a switch. It was built in stages, and the long middle stage is the reversible one your daily life touches. Silent tumors are common. Most of us carry some as we age. Our very normal tissue, a mosaic of driver-carrying clones, and the great majority never wake. What tips the odds across those quiet decades is the terrain, chronic inflammation, the wound that never heals. That is the cell sign you were ignoring while you watch for a lump. You cannot see it in the mirror, but you can lower it slowly over years with the plainest habits there are, and you can let the right screening do the finding, alongside your doctor, never in place of them. If you want the fuller, food-first version of how to tend that terrain, the plain daily habits laid out with the science behind each one, I have gathered it into the Becker protocol, and the link is in the description below this video. And if breakdowns like this one are the reason you come here, subscribing is the simplest way to tell the algorithm to put the next one in front of you before your next appointment, rather than after it. Here is where I have landed, after reading more of this than is probably good for me. The lump was never the beginning of the story. It is the last page. So stop standing guard at a door the tumor walked through years ago and start tending the room it has to live in. Keep the screenings your doctor recommends. Tend the ground, and you are working the one part of this that was always yours. Read the biology, then read your own life. That is the whole of the assignment.